Trevor Story is now out for the rest of the season as the Boston Red Sox have lost a key player on defense.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate, and also currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed for free. And that's honestly the best part, is it's free, so might as well take advantage of it, right? So start your day off the right way with Locked On Red Sox. Locked On is here for you with your team every day. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of the show. And the Red Sox did play their home opener on Tuesday, and the game itself was definitely very underwhelming for Boston, but an absolutely beautiful tribute at the beginning of the game. So I'm going to be talking about all of that today. But first, the biggest news for the Boston Red Sox right now is the update that we received on Trevor Story on Tuesday. Unfortunately, he's going to need surgery on his fractured left shoulder and likely will miss the rest of the season. He was seen screaming in pain after he hit the ground trying to dive for a play in the Red Sox 8-6 win over the Angels on Friday. He was escorted to the dugout by the training staff and didn't return to the game. And then he had an MRI on Saturday and soon after was placed on the 10-day IL. He traveled to Los Angeles and was further examined by another doctor who discovered structural damage to his shoulder. So then basically it came about that the injury is going to require season-ending surgery. It is going to be a recovery time of about 6 months. So the chances of him playing again this year are incredibly slim unless the Red Sox happen to make a deep playoff run and he comes back in time for the later playoff rounds. So it's definitely a huge blow to a Boston Red Sox team that struggled significantly on defense last year in the infield and didn't look like a cohesive unit. And then bringing Trevor Story back this year, he was finally healthy. He got a full offseason with the Boston Red Sox, and he was ready to come in and truly show people that he could be the player that the Red Sox wanted him to be and that the Red Sox were signing. And it's just truly disappointing because only a few games into the season, he gets injured and now has to miss the rest of this season. Very sad, and he was actually seen walking onto the field during the Red Sox home opener with a sling on his arm. It's such an unfortunate situation because the Red Sox were starting to click defensively with him out there in the road trip earlier on this season and in a lot of those games against the A's, Mariners, and Angels. The Red Sox defensive unit looked like they were together. Story was making very nice plays at shortstop, and now he's out for presumably the rest of the season, and that is very bad news for the Boston Red Sox defensively. He's not easily replaced. The Red Sox originally signed him to be a big bat in the middle of the lineup, although he was hitting third primarily in the first handful of games this season. But it's definitely upsetting for him because he did spend most of his career avoiding major injuries while playing with the Rockies, but he's just had awful luck since signing this 6-year, $140 million contract with the Red Sox in 2022. He missed more than a third of the 2022 season due to hand and heel injuries, then missed all but 43 games in 2023 after undergoing UCL surgery. Now with this season being over after just 8 games, it's got to be tough mentally on him because now he just has to look forward to 2025. And it's heartbreaking because he was really hoping to play with a vengeance this season and be ready to come back and showcase everything that he can do for Red Sox fans. So definitely a heartbreaker. And the toughest thing about it is when the Red Sox signed him, these were the years that they were hoping to get the most productivity from him. The first few years of his contract. And then in the last few years of the 6-year deal is when they were expecting maybe a little bit of fall off from him just due to age and just natural degression. So it's definitely disappointing in terms of the fact that now by the time he comes back, he might not ever be the same player again that he was. And we truly might not ever see the version of Trevor Story that the Red Sox signed and were hoping to see. And it's not his fault fully. He has not been able to figure it out at the plate, and he's been struggling a lot. So, from the perspective of looking at his absence on offense, they are not really missing a whole lot of productivity there because he was not one of the guys who was providing a ton of offense early on in this season before going down with this injury. So from that standpoint, they're still in good shape on offense, but defensively, it's a serious blow, and it puts the Red Sox in a tough place of feeling like they have to mix and match other players now at both second base and at shortstop. So now they're back at the problem once again with not having a defined middle infield. And if they're having players platoon at those positions, it's very risky, and we saw how that turned out for Boston last year. So I'm not thinking the Red Sox are going to go out and get anybody to replace Story at shortstop. I think they feel like because Marcelo Meyer is in the rafters looming somewhere and maybe in the next couple seasons could get his chance and be called up, they don't feel like they need to bring in a replacement for Story right now. I think they would rather just platoon the position and do what they can to pull players together to play that in that spot, and then have another platoon at second base and then hope that things work out for them until Marcelo does come up, because there's no point in them committing longer term to another shortstop right now at this point because they have a star shortstop in the system who likely will be the shortstop of the future. So the only thing they could do is maybe sign a cheaper option at shortstop to kind of take over, and at a bare minimum could just provide that everyday shortstop value as opposed to having guys take turns playing that role who are not as strong defensively. So if they sign somebody who's a veteran player, isn't as highly desirable but can play defense and provide a sense of glue in that infield, that alone would help the Red Sox out a lot. So if they go out and they look for somebody who may be a cheaper option, or they trade for somebody that doesn't involve giving up a lot because they're maybe heading towards the end of their career but they're a proven veteran with experience defensively, it could be a good opportunity for the Red Sox to bring in somebody and feel like they have an actual mold there at shortstop, because this was not at all in the cards for Boston this season. And unfortunately, it's just one thing after another for this Boston Red Sox team so far this year. And with the Red Sox front office and the way they've handled this offseason, I would not be surprised if they look at the rest of this season from the scope of, okay, this is just going to be a rebuilding year for us. There's no point in us going out and trying to find a replacement because we don't want to give up key pieces for the future, and we don't want to sit there and try to sign somebody that would be more expensive because it's not worth it. So I feel like with the more players that go down with injuries this season for Boston, the less likely it is that the Red Sox will find replacements, and more likely it is that they'll just roll with what they have, use this as a rebuilding year, and figure out a way to compete as much as they can and focus a lot more on the development of the guys they have internally. That's the approach I'm guessing they'll take. I'm not sitting here saying they won't find somebody to replace Story at shortstop, but my guess would be that they're not going to feel like it's worth it right now, since they already were approaching this standpoint of the season of this is a rebuilding year. we don't feel like we're going to compete with the highest caliber teams right now. We want to focus more on building for the future. So I feel like they're going to just continue to try to hope that some of the younger guys that they are slotting into those roles can improve defensively and fill the void left by Story. But it'll be a very difficult thing to do, and it's certainly a tough blow to the Red Sox defensively. So definitely not great. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about something else that was not great, and that was the Red Sox home opener. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, head to PrizePicks today. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. Playoffs begin next week. On April 20th, the play-in round will take place April 16th, 17th, and 19th. So lots coming up, so it's a great time to start playing daily fantasy sports if you haven't yet. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 if you use code LOCKEDONMLB. It's so worth it, I promise. You won't be disappointed if you check out PrizePicks, so head there today. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Sports Today is so exciting for this network because nobody else has a free 24/7 sports streaming channel. So if you want to stay caught up in everything going on in sports, that is the place for you. The Boston Red Sox played their home opener on Tuesday at Fenway Park, supposedly a sellout crowd there. And to be fair, it did look like there were a lot of people in those stands. And what an absolutely beautiful day weather-wise. 70 and sunny, that's perfect baseball weather. And I thought it was the baseball god saying, we want to have great weather for the Red Sox home opener. Didn't really work out that way for the Red Sox as they did take a 7-1 loss against the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles starter Corbin Burnes is just fantastic. They acquired him during this offseason. Great move for Baltimore. They needed that true #1 starting pitcher, and they got him. He's going to make a huge difference for them this year. He went 7 innings, gave up just 2 hits and 1 earned run. Tyler O'Neill launched a solo home run in the first inning, and it actually later on was revealed that it smashed the windshield of a car. So whoever's car that is, it's an unfortunate day for them. But Tyler O'Neill just continues to mash. Had a great road trip for Boston and then came back and didn't even skip a beat and just came into Fenway Park and just crushed a homer his first at bat. That's a sure sign that hopefully he's going to warm up very well to Fenway and that his bat will slot right in and work really well there. So I enjoyed seeing that from him, the aggression, just being able to go out there and just be welcomed into Fenway with a great sense of confidence. And the fans were giving him a huge cheer when he was introduced with the team during the pregame ceremony. So that was great to see. Another frustrating thing, though, was that the Red Sox struck out 6 times against Corbin Burnes and then 4 more times after that once he was pulled after the 7th inning. So lots of swings and misses in the game. lots of players trying to force things that weren't there. And it almost felt like they were just overconfident because they were back at Fenway, but they did struggle at home last year. And Alex Cora did say, we need to be better at Fenway Park. And it's something that I'm looking for moving forward in the rest of this season, because hopefully the Red Sox struggles from last season at Fenway don't carry over into this year, because this team needs to be better at home if they want to be successful this year. So that was frustrating. Not much action offensively other than the Tyler O'Neill home run. And another big storyline in this game was the defense. Lots of miscues. Jarren Duran made a really awful error in the outfield, and it caused Brayan Bello to have to throw more pitches than he should have. So Jarren Duran misplayed a ball that was hit to him. He should have been able to make the play, but instead it rolled past him and it scored a couple runs for the Orioles. And that was too bad, because Brayan Bello overall, besides that, looked pretty good. He went 5 1/3 innings, gave up 4 hits and 3 runs, but only one of them was an earned run on an RBI double. He gave up 2 walks too and struck out 3. So one thing about Bello's start that I was looking for ahead of time was, how is he going to adjust to it being a daytime start? Because last year he struggled significantly during the day and pitched a lot worse than he did during his nighttime starts. So I said, hopefully his struggles during the day have been figured out and he can pitch more effectively moving forward this season when he has to start during the day. So going into the outing, I was already watching for that, and overall he looked good. I mean, the Orioles have a very strong lineup, so it's tough to contain them, and he was able to do that. But one thing I will say is his command was not the best. He had trouble finding the strike zone sometimes, and in the 6th inning he couldn't find the strike zone at all, so the Red Sox ended up pulling him from the game. So when you look at the box score, you will see that he put up good numbers on the mound and was able to hold off an Orioles team that is very strong offensively. And his defense was really the main issue, because they didn't do enough to help him. They made some mistakes, and I feel like he would have been able to get through 6 innings had it not been for that defense, because he was on a good track and wasn't really showing any signs of struggling until he got to the 6th inning. So because he had to throw extra pitches in innings prior because of the errors, that was ultimately what led to that. So I'm not blaming Bello for the lack of solid defense in the game. I would like to see improve his command a little bit more in those daytime starts still. Overall, it was a drastic improvement from what we saw from him last year during the day, though. So I definitely would like to see him generate some more swings and misses and chases and try to get more control over the strike zone when he's pitching during the day. But other than that, I was pretty impressed overall with his start, and we'll see if it continues for him during the day. That defense is a problem, though. Besides that Duran play, then you had the infield making some defensive errors of their own, and that goes back to Trevor Story not being around, and it really shows how much he's going to be missed, and his defense made an impact on this team. Because, yes, he wasn't the most productive player offensively, but the thing about Trevor Story was he was holding that infield defense together. And for a team that made a lot of defensive errors last year, they needed somebody like Story. So that was another big story of the game for the Red Sox. And then Josh Winkowski kind of fell apart, pitched 2.2 innings, gave up 9 hits and 4 runs, with 3 of them earned, walked 1 and struck out 4. So he kind of fell apart for the Red Sox. Joely Rodriguez came in, pitched 1 inning, and didn't give up any runs. But the game kind of ran away from the Red Sox in the 9th inning when Winkowski gave up those runs, and that's what led to the 7-1 loss for the Red Sox. So it was a tough game overall all around for Boston. Not very many things that were promising besides Tyler O'Neill's home run and overall how Bello looked in his start. But the biggest thing to me to take out of this was just how special the pregame ceremony and just all the festivities were. Just a very beautiful tribute video to the 2004 Red Sox team, ending with a part about Tim Wakefield and Larry Lucino. Just an absolutely beautiful tribute to those that Red Sox Nation lost, who both had meaningful impacts on this Boston Red Sox organization. So just very beautiful. I had so many tears. They introduced a lot of the 2004 team and really showed highlights of them during that year and talked about them breaking the curse. It was just a really special ceremony. And to top it all off, Tim Wakefield's two kids led the 2004 team onto the field during the ceremony, and his daughter Brianna threw out the first pitch for the game, and Jason Varitek caught that pitch, and the Varitek's were very, very close with the Wakefield. So what a special moment that was, and throughout the game, they did bring members of the 2004 Red Sox team into the booth, like Johnny Damon and Keith Folk, and it was just a really cool thing to be able to witness and be able to see all of these people coming together to honor a team that was so special and people we've unfortunately lost who were also so special to the Boston Red Sox organization. So overall, bittersweet home opener, mixed feelings, frustrating performance on the field, but very, very special time off the field. Hopefully the Red Sox can bounce back today and try to win this series because, like I said on yesterday's show, the Orioles are the real deal. This was going to be a big test for Boston, so I'm going to be looking for how do they bounce back from this and what do they look like moving forward in the rest of this series. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about a few roster moves that the Red Sox made, including what the roster is going to look like in Trevor Story's absence. I don't know about you, but I really don't know much about cars, and that's why I rely on eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. It really is a great resource to use if you're ever lost and don't know what to do with your car or what part you need. So head to eBay Motors today. Also head to Locked On Sports today as we as a network have launched the first ever National Sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's very exciting for Locked On because we as a network are the only ones who have this, so head to Locked On Sports today. The Boston Red Sox have made a few roster moves over the last couple days. Some unfortunately are based on unfortunate circumstances and others are to try to compensate for players who have not been performing. So the first one is that the Red Sox did send Bobby Dahlbeck back down to AAA Worcester. I saw this coming. This is a constant cycle with Dahlbeck. They always keep him in AAA. He starts to get hot and hit well down there. So then they bring him back up to the majors in hopes that he can get another shot and figure things out, and then he doesn't. And the Red Sox are stuck in this limbo of constantly doing Bobby Dahlbeck a disservice by keeping him here because he can't figure things out at the major league level, and then bring him back down to Worcester where he thrives. He's just been a forever AAA player for Boston. And I feel like he's stuck in this purgatory of the Red Sox trying to keep him at AAA until he's ready, and then they call him back up, hoping that things will be different, and they're not different. So why not move Bobby Dahlbeck and give him the chance to excel in a different organization? Because sometimes environment is everything, and maybe Boston just isn't for him. I don't think it's too small of a sample size anymore. I think we've seen enough of Dahlbeck at this point to know that he's just not it for the Boston Red Sox, and he seems like a great kid. I'm sure he is a great guy, but he's not working out here for the Boston Red Sox. So I think it would be fair for Boston to move on from him, let him figure it out elsewhere, because they definitely owe him that shot, because they're not doing anything for his career progression by keeping him here. So he'll be back down in AAA. Who knows for how long? If he starts to figure things out, I'm sure he'll make another appearance up in the majors, especially if Casas were to get injured at some point this season. He probably would get another chance. So he's back down in AAA, and we'll see how long it takes for them to call him back up. Nick Pivetta was placed on the injured list with right elbow flexor strain. It's definitely unfortunate. 15-day IL. He noted that he was having some trouble recovering start to start. So Craig Breslow said he felt like it was a good opportunity to take advantage of off days early in the season, put him on the IL just to give him a chance to recover, and then hopefully he can come back sooner rather than later. The Red Sox are hopeful that he'll be able to return as soon as his 15 days are up. They do believe it's a reasonable goal. You can't ever put a timetable on things too early, because you never know how things are going to go and how the progress is actually going to go, but they're definitely hopeful. And basically what's going to happen now is everybody will shift up a day. So Cutter Crawford will shift up to Wednesday, Garrett Whitlock will shift up, and Tanner Houck will shift up, because Wednesday was supposed to be a Nick Pivetta start. So then everybody else will just shift up a day. And then on Saturday, they'll likely call up a starter from AAA. Cooper Criswell could be an option. Most likely he will be, because they were talking about him potentially being in a rotation spot to start the season, but then they started him in AAA. So he would likely be the choice, but they're hoping it's temporary. They don't seem too concerned about Nick Pivetta, but definitely not ideal, especially right when the Story news broke, too, that Nick Pivetta is also on the injured list. Definitely a lot less severe with him. Hopefully he can come back sooner rather than later, but this is going to be a big test for a pitching staff that already doesn't have a lot of depth. They didn't make a ton of moves to improve the pitching in the offseason. Lucas Giolito's already out, and now with Nick Pivetta on the IL, it'll be interesting to see how everybody else steps up and performs and what their depth is really looking like. So they're going to be tested over the next few days and maybe even a few weeks until Pivetta comes back. So hopefully it's soon. We're going to continue to monitor it, see how he does with his development, how he's coming along, and hopefully he can get the all clear to come back sooner rather than later. Also, due to the Trevor Story injury, the Red Sox have called up utility player Romy Gonzalez. He was claimed off waivers from Chicago in January 2023 by the Boston Red Sox, and he's interesting because he has fringe average arm strength. He spent 3 seasons playing for the University of Miami and then 5 seasons in the White Sox system. He's a valuable up and down player due to his defensive versatility, speed, and power. The Red Sox had an eye on him, kind of monitoring where he was at. He got some reps in spring training. And then last year in 2023, he hit to the tune of a 238 batting average and a 257 on base percentage. So not awful, but definitely could be a little bit better. So the Red Sox called him up due to the Story injury. Definitely was not in the plan to call him up now. But the plan for the Red Sox now in terms of second base and shortstop is to primarily platoon at both of those positions. And Manuel Valdez and Pablo Reyes will primarily be second base, and then Romy Gonzalez and David Hamilton will primarily play shortstop, which is unfair to David Hamilton because the more that we've seen from him at the major league level, the more it becomes clear that he's not ready to play shortstop at the major league level and cannot handle that position. And it's kind of doing him a disservice that they're forcing this out of him. when Vaughn Grisham comes back, I would rather see them place him at shortstop and have him be a more permanent guy in that spot and then continue to have Reyes and Valdez platoon at second base. I just don't think that David Hamilton's ready, and I'm intrigued by Romy Gonzalez. Obviously, too soon to know how he's going to be and what type of player he's going to turn into, what his contributions will be. So that's definitely intriguing to me. He did take one at bat in Boston's loss on Tuesday and struck out. So I want to see more from him for sure. But David Hamilton defensively struggles. And he struggled in Tuesday's game, had a couple defensive miscues, and that was very detrimental. And it goes to show how much we really miss Trevor Story. So if the plan is to platoon Hamilton and Gonzalez right now at shortstop and platoon Reyes and Valdez at second base, it's a risky thing to do. And when the Red Sox finally had an infield situation figured out where they had Vaughn Grisham at second base and Trevor Story at shortstop, now both of these guys are hurt. That was looking like a solid infield between Casas, Grisham, Story, and Devers as those four primary players in the infield. Now, all of a sudden, they're in a similar situation that they were in last year where they didn't have a true second baseman, so they were just trying out different players in that spot and rotating between guys. And now they have no choice but to do that again. But when Grisham comes back, I'd be interesting to see where they fit him into the equation. Do they have him play second base, which is what they traded for him to play originally, and then just try to maybe move Reyes to shortstop and have Valdez or Hamilton or Gonzalez fill in when needed? Or do they have Grisham play shortstop primarily and then just primarily have Reyes and Valdez stay at second, and then you send David Hamilton back down to AAA and Romy Gonzalez, you see where he lands and if he's maybe an alternative player if somebody gets injured or they're all resting. So it'll be interesting to see what the Red Sox do there. Lots of moving parts, lots of things that need to be figured out once Grisham does come back. But as far as the overall outlook for this team, with all of these scenarios, definitely not ideal, not great. I'm concerned about the Red Sox defense still. I think it would be unfair to say they didn't attempt to fix it this offseason because they absolutely did. Grisham was a very highly rated prospect in the Braves system, so they brought him in hopes that he could be the permanent second baseman for years to come. And with Trevor Story, I mean, he is a shortstop and he was playing good defense. So things that are out of the Red Sox control happened. Hopefully they can figure things out, and this would give the opportunity for guys like David Hamilton to try to improve defensively and show that they deserve a spot on the Major League roster. So you can look at it both ways. Good development opportunity for some of these guys, but also the defense could become a serious problem again without Trevor Story. So just got to keep moving forward. Hopefully the Red Sox can take 2 of 3 in this series. As always, keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.